Man, I hope Bert's okay. He's taking a while to get on the podcast. Whoa! Bert, is that you? Hello and welcome to the Real World Podcast. My name is Cameron. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Real World YouTube channel. If you are a fan of movies, you will get a lot out of the channel. We've got videos for all kinds of different films. We review movies here, we react to trailers, we review my Blu-ray collection behind me. So if you're at all into movies or physical media, this is the channel for you. Be sure to give us a like, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell below to get notifications of all our videos here at the Real World. Joining me again is Bert. How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, Cam. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Thanks again for joining us. Took a couple weeks break. A new baby was born in my family, so we took a couple weeks off. We also had a hurricane on top of that down here in Florida, so we were dealing with all kinds of things down here. But thank you so much for coming back to the channel. This should be a fun one. We're in October, so today we're talking all about our favorite horror movies, our top 5 favorite horror films. We're also going to review the new Marvel special presentation, Werewolf by Night, and we're going to cover some movie news as well. So let's jump right in with some movie news. All right, so we're going to kick things off on the podcast today, episode 23 of the Real World Podcast, with movie news. So we wanted to talk about some news that dropped over the past 2 weeks. We've been gone for a while, so a lot of news to cover here, but I'm going to try to go through them as quickly as we can. The biggest piece of news we got during our break is that Hugh Jackman is returning as Wolverine in Deadpool 3. So, so Hugh Jackman was convinced, I don't know how, truckloads of money or
Yeah, because he was done, wasn't he?
yeah, he said Logan was it. And so I don't know what
Yeah.
exactly it was that got him back, but he decided to
hmm
come back to the role that made him famous. Of course, his first breakout role in the original X-Men movie back in 2000. He's played this role for many years now. Now he's definitely the longest running superhero actor to play the same character ever. Beating Robert Downey Jr. and Sam Jackson and all these guys. So he and Ryan Reynolds will be teaming up. This is the first movie they've actually done together. They've got a long history. If you're on the internet at all, you'll know they have this kind of fake feud that's been going on for years. Where
Really?
the kind of
Oh,
yeah, that's all. It's clearly a joke, but they always talk down about one another and that kind of thing. So it's great that they're getting together. Sean Levy is going to direct it. He is the
okay.
director of Real Steel. He did the Night at the Museum movies. He did the Atom Project. So he's worked with both of these actors separately. Now he's going to be working with them together. So I'm excited about this. At first, when I heard it, I was a little wishy-washy on it just because Logan was such a perfect ending, I felt, to that character. I think that's one of the best superhero movies of all time. So him coming back, I was a little torn on it, but I think it's going to be such a different take on it. And seeing these two
hmm
characters together, I'm not a huge Deadpool fan. It's not really my
Really?
thing,
Okay.
but I think seeing these two together, this kind of odd couple pairing, is going to be excellent. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, this is the opposite of Logan, right?
Right, exactly.
So I guess I could see if he's gonna do one, maybe leave sort of that legacy of how the real, ending to Wolverine happened, and this is
Right.
just gonna be for laughs, right?
Sure, sure.
But he
Exactly.
is, like when you think about Wolverine throughout all of the X-Men movies, I mean, he does make an occasional one-liner or something like that, but he's very,
Sure.
very, very serious.
Right,
And
right.
so that's perfect for Deadpool to play off of
Sure,
because
sure.
with the odd couple, you got to have one straight man, and he's very,
Yes.
very serious. Kind of like Cable was. That's kind of the my
Right.
thought.
That's
It
what I was
worked
going to
great.
say. Yeah, it
Yeah,
would
I
be
love
similar
that
to that.
interplay between
Yep.
Cable and Deadpool.
Me
Just
too.
the
Yeah.
jokes at his expense, and
Yes.
then Cable, slapping him around or whatever he does to
Right.
him. It's just
Right.
love it.
And that's why I think I prefer the second Deadpool because of that
Oh,
dynamic,
okay.
and I
Yeah.
think the action's better in it. But yeah, I'm excited to see this, all come together. It's not coming out until 2024, so we've got a while to wait.
Mm.
But fans are already asking him, begging him to put on the yellow suit which he has in the comic book. So in the movies,
Oh,
he's in black leather or he's just
yeah,
in
yeah.
civilian clothes or whatever. He never actually puts on his comic book, costume. Although there is a deleted scene from the Wolverine, where
Oh,
he's
I
in
think I remember
Japan.
this.
Yeah, where he gets on the airplane at the end, he opens up a suitcase and it's got the suit in it.
Okay.
And so fans are hoping he puts it on. I'm sure he will. I don't see why he wouldn't, if they're going to do it, especially if it's in the MCU, it kind of fits that style a little bit better, I think.
Right, right.
So I'm thinking we'll probably see him there. The question everyone's asking is this going to be another one off, or is he going to come back in the Avengers movie, Secret Wars? Because the Secret Wars comic book has, remember, like every Marvel superhero, all the X-Men, all the Fantastic Four,
Gotcha.
all the Avengers
Gotcha.
together. So will he come back
Yeah.
again for that movie? I
Yeah.
guess we'll just have
Does
to
it
wait and
open the
see.
door to more X-Men appearing?
Right? Yeah.
Um,
Could James Marsden comes back as Cyclops or Halle
I'd love
Berry as
that.
Storm?
Yeah,
I don't
right,
know. We've already had Xavier back, Patrick Stewart came
right.
back in Doctor Strange. So
Didn't love how
anything's
that
possible.
happened, but
Right, right.
or how it
Anything's possible.
unfolded.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think, Kevin Feige, he's always got a plan,
Yeah.
and this is the multiverse saga that we're in right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
all about bringing all these characters, we already had all the Spider-Man came back, Tobey Maguire and all them.
Mm-hmm.
So, anything's possible. I think that's probably what he's thinking of. How can he top Avengers Endgame?
Yeah,
Really, the only way would be to
I'm
bring in
sure.
even more superheroes.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it's been a while since I've watched Deadpool 1 and 2. Although I've seen them both more than once, but there's at least one reference to not having enough money in the budget for other like X-Men, right?
right.
And things like that. And then there are
Yeah.
X-Men in it, but they're sort of like the ones that aren't in the X-Men movies.
Yes.
And then at one point I think they show they're in the house, right? And then
Yes. They
like
open the
something moves out of
door.
the way. They're filming or they're all gathered up,
Right.
the real X-Men, but
Right.
they close the door real quick. That's
It's
what it
like
was.
a
Yeah.
2-second cameo. Yeah.
That's great.
Right,
That's great.
exactly. Yeah, so we'll
So
get more of that, I'm sure. All right, moving on to our next bit of news. Staying in the Marvel world, there's quite a bit of Marvel news that's been dropping. Armor Wars is this Disney Plus series that they announced a while back with Don Cheadle coming back as War Machine,
mm,
but now this has been turned into a movie. So this is a thing where it was going to be a 6
oh,
episode series on Disney Plus. Now they've decided to make it a movie instead,
oh,
which I think is great. We'll get to see him on the big screen in his own film. He's been in the MCU. I think he's been in like 9 MCU movies, but never had his own. And so he's going to kind of get to branch out here. The whole show is going to be about what if Tony Stark's technology fell into the wrong hands. And so I'm guessing he has to go on this mission to get this technology back from some bad guys. It's set after the events of the upcoming Secret Invasion series, which he will also have a role in. So it's going to build off of
mm,
that. I'm wondering if they're going to change the title from Armor Wars to War Machine. I don't know. Armor Wars is a popular comic book run that he was in, but I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see.
yeah.
But that's going to
Okay.
start filming next year to be released in 2024. Next bit of Marvel news is that the upcoming Blade film, starring Mahershala Ali taking over the role from Wesley Snipes, has been pushed back. So they lost their director. The director ended up leaving the project. They now have to look for a new director. They were set to start filming in like January. So they're going to have
Mhm.
to kind of rush if they want to, find a new one. But they had to bump it back to 2024. It was supposed to come out in 2023. So that one's been delayed a little bit. They're reworking the script and that kind of thing. I actually heard that the director of the John Wick films, Chad Stahelski, was interested in directing this. I think he'd be a great pick to take over. He's also a writer, so I think he'd be a really, really good choice. But we'll just have to wait and see who they end up picking.
You like the Blade movies?
I do. I'm a fan of the first two. Third one, not so
Mm,
much. The second one, especially because that one's Guillermo del Toro directed it. It's one of his earliest
oh,
movies,
okay.
and I thought he did a good job with the second one. Not
Yeah.
top tier comic book movies for me, but
Oh, yeah.
entertaining for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not. I saw the first one and didn't really. It wasn't anything I really cared about, and I never
Gotcha.
saw 2 or 3. But maybe I would like 2 better, but I never saw it.
Yeah, I would say two is a better movie. But if you're not into that kind of dark horror vampire stuff,
I
then that,
don't love vampire. There's
yeah,
hardly any vampire movies that I've ever seen that I liked.
really? Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean
Yeah. You might not
maybe
like it.
Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Oh,
That
sure.
one's just even
Yeah.
that one. I mean, it's well acted, but
Right.
I don't know. Vampires aren't really my thing.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Zombies, sure. Vampires,
Zombie.
not so
Okay.
much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Last bit of Marvel news. A few other release dates shifted due to Blade getting shifted. Fantastic Four has now been delayed a year to 2025.
Wow.
And then Avengers Secret Wars, which was going to come out the same year as Avengers The Kang Dynasty. We're going to get two Avengers movies back to back. That one has also been delayed a year to 2026.
Wow.
So
Okay.
everything's kind of shifting around a little bit. That happens with movies, things
Yeah.
get delayed, people leave projects, whatever. But a couple projects that haven't moved are the Captain America movie, New World Order, and the Thunderbolts movie, which is kind of like the secret or the Suicide Squad type movie
Oh
for
yeah.
Marvel. And another big piece of news regarding those two movies is that it looks like Harrison Ford is going to be replacing William Hurt, who passed away earlier this
Yeah.
year, as
Yeah.
General Ross.
Really?
So he's looks like he's going to be coming into the. There's no official word on this yet, but all the major
Okay.
news sites are reporting it. So
Okay.
it's just inevitable before they announce it, basically.
Wow.
But yeah, Mr. Ford is actually joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has me ecstatic.
Yeah.
My favorite actor of all time, and I think it's a really good role for him. Actually, I think he's going to nail that part. William Hurt, he's such a great actor. I think he did a great job in that role, especially in Incredible Hulk, which is where he originated the role. But
Right.
yeah, I'm excited to see what they end up doing with this character. If he's going to be in both these movies, maybe beefing up the role a little bit, it seems like.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah. Make
comic
it worth his
books,
while to get on a
exactly. If you're
plane and get
getting,
out there.
yeah, if you're getting a big actor like that, you really need to give him time to shine. And in the
Right.
comic books, that character ends up becoming a character called the Red Hulk,
Oh.
who's basically another Hulk, but he's red instead of green, and
Oh.
so kind of an antagonist for Hulk. Be interested to see if they go that route with him. I don't know. I don't know what they'll end up doing, but should be interesting.
Wow. Yeah.
All right, a couple more pieces of news here. The new Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes, I'm a huge fan of this franchise, going all the way back to the original film from 68. I've seen all of them. I own them all actually on Blu-ray. And
Hmm.
I really like the reboot trilogy they did with Andy Serkis. Those movies I think are
I need to
phenomenal.
watch those. Yeah.
Oh, you haven't seen them? Okay.
No, no, no. Yeah. I always saw
Yeah.
the bad one with Mark Wahlberg.
Right. Yeah. The Tim Burton one. Not great. Not great. Yeah. So we'll have to have a watch party then and do a whole
Yeah.
Apes in review when this comes out. They're doing a new one. It's building off of this new trilogy, but it's set about a decade later. It's called Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, is the title they
Hmm.
revealed recently. It has Wes Ball directing it. He's the director of the Maze Runner trilogy. I think it's a
Okay.
really underrated trilogy, really good movies based on a young adult sci-fi novels.
Yeah.
So yeah, May 24th, 2024, we will get a new Planet of the Apes movie. They
Hmm.
cast a few actors in it recently, and they're gearing up to begin production. I think actually production began last week on it, if I'm not mistaken. So
Andy
um,
Serkis part of that one too. Then
he's
is he
not.
back?
He's done with
Uh
it. He's done with it. Yeah.
yeah.
So
He's getting older. It's harder to hop around. The
exactly. I
physical
know.
things he was doing even back for Lord of the Rings. I'm like,
Right.
man, that would kill my knees.
I know, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, hopefully he's involved somehow. I hope
Mhm.
that he, at least has been consulted on it, maybe. Really excited about that coming in just a couple years. All right. Next up, Now You See Me. Have you seen that movie? Now You See Me, the
I
magician movie?
actually I despise that first
Me too.
movie.
Me
Do
too. I
you really?
really don't like it.
I just
Yeah.
I just hate it because there's so can I just tell you why?
Go
And
ahead.
maybe you think the same thing.
Sure.
There's so many ways that you could make a clever movie along those lines
Yeah.
without just relying on just CGI cards and
Yes.
stuff that just makes no sense.
I
You
agree.
know?
I agree. Well, especially when you watch
That's
stuff
frustrating.
like The Illusionist you've mentioned on here before, or The
Yeah, right. The
Prestige,
Prestige.
like
Yeah,
these
yeah.
great magician movies. And when you
Yes,
compare it,
right.
it's like it just pales in comparison.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
actors that are in it, they got to be thinking, why are we pretending that
Right.
why don't we just make like a real movie about yeah illusions
Right.
or card tricks or
Yeah.
they're doing all kinds of things and just like oh we'll insert the card later I guess.
Yeah. I don't get it. Yeah. I
I
get.
don't yeah it's just
Yeah.
bad.
It is. It is. It's not good. But they're making a third one. I guess
Okay,
the first two made enough money that
I
they're
think
making
so.
another one.
Yeah.
And so, Ruben Fleischer is directing it though, and he's a director I like. He did Uncharted, he did Zombieland.
Oh, Oh yeah, that's a good one.
So maybe they'll change the formula up and it'll be better this time. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's got good actors in it,
The
but
cast is so good. Yeah, Woody
yeah.
Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg. I like the whole cast.
Hmm.
So we'll have to just wait and see on that one. It's just early
Okay.
stages of development now. I never understood why they didn't title the second one "Now You Don't." Maybe it'd be too confusing, but um,
Instead of Now You See Me Too. Yeah.
right.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a missed opportunity, I think, for
It
sure.
is. It is. It is. All right. Just a couple more things here. They are making a new Nosferatu film. So I
Oh.
know you're not a vampire movie guy, but
Hmm.
they are making a new version of this classic horror film, one of the first horror films, Nosferatu. Robert Eggers is directing it. He did The
Mm.
Witch, The Lighthouse. He just did The Northman. He's an up and coming director. Really interesting movies he makes. They did cast Nicholas Holt to
Oh.
play one of the, not the main character, but one of the side characters. Bill Skarsgård is going to play the title
Mm.
character.
Then I'll be
Um,
seeing it for sure. Wow, that is
yeah,
dead on casting.
it is. Yeah,
He's
for
amazing.
sure. He's a great actor. Really good. So, really interested in that one. They're start filming pretty soon. So,
Okay.
that should be out probably next year or maybe 2024. Let's look at some trailers that dropped this week or within the past couple weeks. The first one I wanted to discuss is the Super Mario Brothers movie. This is, of course, based on the video game of the same name, and it's coming from the studio Illumination, who've done the Despicable Me
Hmm.
movies, Secret Life of Pets.
Those are really good.
Um, yeah, yeah. So they're a good animation studio. They're not the greatest. They're not Pixar for me. They're not the best, but they've made some good movies, and this one looks
Hmm.
to be really good. I was actually
Hmm.
impressed with this trailer. I think it
Hmm.
looks kind of epic, bigger than I thought it would look. Very colorful, very fun, but it looks like it's going to be kind of action packed and,
Hmm.
it's going to be populated by all these characters. I'm not a huge gamer, so I didn't really grow up playing the Mario games. I'm, of course, aware of all the characters. I've played
Yeah.
like Mario
Yeah.
Kart, I think, and I've played some of the games before, but I'm just into it because of the look of it, I think is great. And the cast, of course, they got Jack Black as Bowser. What great casting. Chris Pratt as Mario. This has been very divisive on the internet. People are
I've seen a couple
very,
headlines about that. Yeah.
yeah, people are not sure about him as Mario. But you got Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong. We haven't heard him yet. You got to hear a little bit of Keegan Michael Key as Toad. So, interesting casting, but I just think the visuals are great on it. The trailer had me laughing too. So, what did you think of this one?
Yeah. Well, the word I thought of too was epic. They found a way
Yeah,
to kind of make it seem really epic, and
right.
there really hasn't been a movie quite like this with Super Mario. I don't think there's been one. I mean, there
Not
was a
in,
live action one years
right.
ago, and I never saw it, but I understand it was really, really
Yeah,
bad.
I didn't either.
But yeah, I agree. It looked funny. The animation looked right on point. So I mean, this is definitely one to look forward to.
Yeah, I agree. It comes out April 7th, 2023, so not too far away. The other trailer we wanted to discuss, one you sent me, called Violent Night. And we're coming up on Christmas very soon, so they're already dropping Christmas trailers on us.
Yeah.
And this is basically, I would describe it as John Wick meets the Santa Claus, right? So it's kind of
Yeah.
like this action-packed Christmas movie where David Harbour of Stranger Things fame is coming in
Mhm.
as Santa, and he arrives at this house where this home invasion has taken place. You've
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
John Leguizamo as the bad guy, who's kind of like trying to, I
Yeah.
guess, extort this family for money that they have in the
Hmm.
safe. Basically, Santa starts kicking butt. So that's kind of the premise. Santa's there to rescue this family. It's kind of like Home Alone. I don't know. It's all this kind of mixture of all these different things that went through my head as I was watching this, but it looks like tons of fun. It's not it's
Hmm.
not very serious, although it looks like it's going to be R-rated. It's going to be pretty violent, but it looks like it's going to be tons of fun. What did you think about Violent
Yeah.
Night?
I just think tone will be everything with it.
Right,
Because you got the marriage of two different things. You got a Christmas movie and you got the action movie.
right.
But the trailer looked like they were hitting the tone pretty good,
Yeah, it did.
But I will say now we know what Santa's doing the whole rest of the year when he's not delivering presents. He's training for scenes
Right.
for just in case there's an incident just like this. He's
Exactly.
prepped and locked and loaded and
That's
ready to take
right.
it on.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it looks
Yeah.
like so much fun. Yeah, I'm glad it's R though, because
Right.
honestly, I think if it was a comedy, and I'm sure there'll be laughs in it because it looked like
Sure.
that on the
Right.
trailer. But like I said, I just think the tone will be everything.
Yeah, I think it harkens back to Die Hard, that kind of R-rated.
Yeah,
It's a Christmas
exactly.
movie, but it's really
There's
just an action
comedy.
movie. Yeah, and there's
Yeah,
comedy in
yeah.
it, but
You're right. Die
yeah,
Hard's a great example. That's the
right.
feeling. Maybe not quite as serious as Die Hard, but
Right, sure.
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, because it's Santa Claus, so it's got that fantastical element to it, and he's using all these magic powers and all this stuff, too. And
Right. Yeah,
uh,
that's the thing. That's the difference here is that it's one of those movies where Santa's real, but also it's this
right,
Die Hard movie. So
yeah, exactly.
it's a great concept.
Yeah, it reminds me. You know what it reminds me of? I know you're a big fan of Scrooged, and Scrooged
Yes, yes.
opens with the night the reindeer died, which is this fake TV movie.
Yeah, right,
It kind
right.
of reminds me of that a little
Sure.
bit.
Yeah, yeah. With the
Uh,
$6 million man. Yeah, that's
right, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Yeah. So we're looking forward to Violent Night. That one comes out December 2nd. So that one will be coming up pretty soon. Oh, and I read that Beverly D'Angelo is going to appear in it, who I
Really?
haven't seen in a movie in a while.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Okay.
so that should be fun. Tommy Wirkola directed it. He did a couple movies that are underrated that I really like. One is called
Hmm.
Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
Oh, that was decent.
I like
I
that
saw
one.
that.
And then another one called The Trip, which if you haven't seen it, it's another
Mm,
it's a dark comedy.
I might have
I
seen
think it's
that.
on Netflix right now, but it's
Okay.
like a Swedish or Norwegian film.
Is it
Um,
subtitled?
I don't know. Yeah, it is subtitled. Yeah, it
Then I
is.
probably haven't seen it.
Yeah, yeah.
I
You
try to
should
avoid
though.
reading.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. But
I
it's
will
a
watch
really
them,
good
but
one.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay. Okay.
you should
That's
check
good to
out The
know.
Trip. And it seems like it's going to
Okay.
be Violent Night. Very much seems like it's in that same vein, like a dark comedy
Ah,
with some action.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. The last trailer we wanted to discuss just dropped recently. Bert sent me this last night. He's the horror guy. I'm not really a horror guy. So Bert finds all these, and it's called Megan. And I watched the trailer as soon as you sent it to me. And I'm like, yeah, we've got to talk about this. This looks so creepy. But it
It
looks
does.
what's cool about it is it looks like it reminds me a lot of Child's Play, where it's like it's kind of some certain scenes are kind of funny and silly,
Hmm.
but still have that undertone of like creeping you out. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's
Go
a
ahead.
scene where she's like dancing, right? In like a
Yeah,
hallway.
right.
But it's
Right.
like it's you want to laugh, but you're like, ooh, that's still creepy because she's still coming to kill somebody,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the premise is like, kind of like again, like Child's Play, like this robot doll basically is this companion for this young girl. It's this prototype
Hmm.
doll, I guess has AI or something and starts taking her programming a little too seriously,
Right, right.
protecting this young girl from everyone around her. So yeah, I was creeped out by it. I would be really interested to watch it. What's your take on it?
Yeah, and this doll is, I think, quite a bit more mobile than Chucky, although you
Right.
wouldn't know it by watching the Chucky movies because he flies all over the place
Sure.
and does stuff.
Right.
I'm not a huge fan of the Chucky movies, but
Yeah.
we've actually gotten a few good movies recently with dolls. There's the movie The Boy, which is a really good horror movie.
Okay.
That has to do with a doll. It's not like Chucky though.
Right.
Nor is Annabelle.
Oh, I've heard of
And
those. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I'm not going to say those are great films,
Mhm.
but they're decent. But
Aren't those
yeah,
tied
so
in with a? Are they tied in with The
yeah,
Conjuring?
yeah, they're
Okay,
tied
because
into The Conjuring.
I saw
Yeah,
the first Conjuring movie and I liked it, and
gotcha.
I think
Yeah,
she's in that, like in the background or something.
yes. So yeah, this one though is even different from all of those.
Mhm.
And she's yeah, kind of like a real person. It's a little bit like AI, the movie, the
Yeah.
Spielberg one,
Right.
which
Right.
that one is a dark film
Yeah, it is.
with some
Yeah.
serious deep themes. But
Right.
it's a good movie. It's one I've seen a few
Yeah.
times actually.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like that, but instead she's just this girl's personal bodyguard. It looks
Mm.
really great. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one I would definitely see.
Yeah, yeah, I would definitely be interested in it. It comes out in January. So again, I don't know why they don't release all horror movies I feel like should come out in October. They would make so much more money, I feel like, but I'm sure
It
there's some
makes
strategy
sense.
behind it or whatever. But
Right. Yeah.
yeah, what I was thinking when I was watching this again, Child's Play was playing over and over in my head, and I was like,
Hmm.
this is how studios should approach a remake. I
Hmm.
feel like if you're
Right.
gonna remake a classic movie, especially like Child's Play, it's got this huge cult following behind it now. Don't just do the same exact thing just with new technology. Make a new kind of story
Sure.
about it,
Yeah. Right.
Like
I agree. Yeah.
a similar plot, but change things about it and make it different.
Yeah. They missed their
Um,
chance. They could have, it could have just been a better a reboot of Chucky with
Right.
I get the impression on this newer Chucky movies that they're just like throwaway horror
Yeah.
comedies, right? I
That's what it feels like. It doesn't even feel like they're trying.
yeah, exactly.
Oh well. Yeah, so it looks like it's gonna be, creepy and weird, sci-fi kind of robo thriller. So
Hmm.
yeah, that should be interesting. Megan comes out this January 2023. All right, the last thing we wanted to discuss briefly before we jump into our top five favorite horror films list is Black Adam. This is the new DC movie coming out this weekend. We're super excited about it. We're going to do a podcast all about the DC EU and all the movies, ranking all the movies and reviewing Black Adam. So that should be tons of fun. Be on the lookout for that coming up soon. Dwayne Johnson has been all over social media. He's kind of like a master of social media. If you follow him,
Hmm.
he's really good at it. And this is his new thing. And he's been working on this for literally decades. He was
Really?
actually announced as the actor who will play Black Adam back in 2007.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, 2007, before the MCU was even a thing. He has been trying to
Wow.
get this movie made. He's a huge
Wow.
fan of the character and the DC universe, and so it's
He might be
finally
glad he
happened.
waited.
Right? Yeah. No, it is better that it happened now. I think for sure.
Yeah.
After the superhero craze has kind of reached a fever pitch, and the DC universe has been established, and you can kind of
Hmm.
put him into it now. I think it's great timing. So I'm really excited for it. He's also been teasing the return of Superman as played by Henry Cavill.
That'd be
Um,
amazing.
it would be awesome. It would be so cool. So I'm hoping that we'll get to see him on the big screen again. I mean, it's we haven't seen him. Technically, he hasn't played the role since 2016, and that's crazy to think about. We of course
Yeah.
got Zack Snyder's Justice League, but that was a director's cut of
Yeah.
a movie that got reworked and all that.
He probably
Um,
did some reshoots though, right? Some newer
no, he didn't shoot
no?
any, and no
Oh
reshoots,
wow.
no
He
reshoots,
wasn't involved in the reshoots. Okay.
no, no,
Interesting.
nothing. So yeah, he hasn't played the role for a long time. So I'm hoping he gets to suit up
Hmm.
again, even if it's just for a cameo or something,
Hmm.
just to set up. Yes, we are getting more Superman. They need to give us that.
Yeah.
I feel like so.
Yes, they
Especially with
do.
the news that Ben Affleck's coming back in Aquaman and all this. So there's a lot of hope, I think, for DC fans right now. So we'll just have to wait and see, after we watch Black Adam and
Yeah.
find out.
We need the band to get back together.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree. Restore the Snyderverse. So yeah, that's something that has everyone excited. People online are talking about superhero fatigue. Is it setting in yet? Is it too much? Is it? I feel like it's not yet, but it's maybe reaching that point in some ways. I think specifically Marvel is kind of getting to this point where they're getting a lot of criticism for being formulaic and for their TV shows not being on the same level as the movies,
Mm,
and some of the movies not living up to the hype, that kind of thing. And I think Kevin Feige, president of Marvel Studios, realizes this. And I think
yeah.
that's why he decided to make Werewolf by Night, which we're going to talk about right now. This was released on Disney Plus just about a week ago. And so we both got a chance to watch it and wanted to discuss our thoughts on it. I'll start us off. This is Marvel's first special presentation, is what it's called.
Hmm.
It's sort of these Disney Plus specials. They're, not quite a 2 hour movie, not quite a 20-minute short film. It's kind of something in between.
Yeah, it was
And
50, wasn't it?
yeah,
Something
it's
like
about
that. 50.
50 minutes. Yeah, yeah, a little
Yeah.
under an
Hmm.
hour. And I actually looked up, what qualifies as a feature film, and
Hmm.
according to the Academy, it's anything over 40 minutes. So
Really?
you can
Okay.
consider
Okay.
this a film, I think. Although
Yeah, I would say so.
The Screen Actors Guild says it has to be 60 minutes to be a movie. So
Okay.
there's not really consensus on it,
Hmm.
but
Interesting.
anyways, yeah, it is about 50 minutes long. Their second special presentation is going to drop in December. It's the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special,
Okay.
which will be dropping later this
Good.
year. So that should be fun too. But basically, here what we have is Werewolf by Night, based on a comic of the same name about a guy who turns into a werewolf at night. It's kind of their first foray into horror. We kind of got some horror vibes in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness earlier this year. Sam Raimi kind of did his Evil Dead thing, a lot of crazy, stylish camera work and stuff like that. Some undead Doctor Strange action, stuff like that. That was fun.
Yeah.
But this they lean into it a little bit more, and they lean into kind of a classic feel. So anyone familiar with, Universal monster movies of the like 30s and 40s, the old Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, all that stuff, they're going to get a lot out of this. And that's me. I'm big
Uh,
into classic horror monster movies.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
did a recent review of my Blu-ray box set of all the horror movies I've got right back here, all the Universal movies that kind of created that whole genre. And Michael Giacchino directed this. I should mention that up top. He's award-winning composer of tons of films, Star Trek, Up, The Batman, so many great scores. We talked about him on our film score podcast. You can check out, but
Yeah.
he's a fan of all that kind of stuff. He's a fan of
Mm,
those kind of
that's fair.
classic sort of B movie, monster movie tropes and kind of that style. So it's all black and white. It's got a really grainy look to it, that they put in there. So it just is unique. I think that's what I liked about it most, is that it just doesn't even really feel like an MCU thing. There's little things that tie it in. Certainly, even the first shot is the shot of this, Avengers and this artwork, and kind of the narration tells you about, the history and all that. So it's definitely tied in, but it feels very unique, and it's very different. So I got a big kick out of it. I had fun with it. I thought it was the perfect kind of balance of kind of fun, scary. It's not really like horror, but it's kind of that fun, scary monster movie vibe, but with characters that I really liked and cared about. I think the performances were really strong, particularly Gael Garcia Bernal, who played Jack Russell, the werewolf. I thought he did a really good job. He's kind of got this kind-hearted nature to him.
Hmm.
And then you have Laura Donnelly as Elsa Bloodstone. I thought she was really cool, kind of tough character, more serious and straightforward. So I thought they played off each other well. The rest of the cast did a good job. The effects I thought were great. A lot of practical effects there, which is a departure from Marvel. They get kind of criticized for doing too much CGI sometimes, and I thought that was they went the other way with it there. I had a really fun time watching it. I actually would love to watch it again. I probably will before the season is over. But I want to get your thoughts on Werewolf by Night. What'd you think?
It was okay.
Okay.
There's nothing I really disliked about it. It's just that it just felt like the short version of a film. Like it felt like I just needed more.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So
it
you
just felt,
wanted more.
yeah,
I guess
yeah.
that's
It
a
just felt
good thing
rushed.
though.
It
Well,
is. It
okay.
is. It was just frustrating
I
because
gotcha.
it just felt like they sort of hurried through the whole presentation.
Sure, sure.
Um, I don't love black and white in general,
Hmm.
just because I prefer to see the color. But
Sure.
what they did with it was good, and
Yeah.
like when they brought out the color with the stone, that was really
Yeah,
cool, really
sure.
neat effect. So that was
Right.
neat. I mean, it looked great.
Yeah.
A little bit of the CGI I thought wasn't great, like when the
Hmm.
monster was running, and I thought, nah, that's weird
Okay.
because usually MCU nails the
Sure.
CGI pretty well.
Right.
And it wasn't awful. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong
yeah.
about the CGI.
Hmm.
And then there's the thing that if there's a way to put someone in a suit and they opt to do CGI instead, I'm always like, man, I wish they would have just had somebody in a suit. Did they not?
They did he
Oh,
whenever the character in question, Ted, they call him Ted. In the comics, he's
uh-huh.
known as Man Thing.
Okay.
Whenever he's stationary, he is a
Uh-huh.
practical
Okay, because
creature.
that's good because it looked good up close, but I think
Yeah,
yeah. So when he ran was when I was like,
right.
oh, that looked a little bit odd. I mean,
Sure,
I guess that's a minor criticism. So I
sure.
mean, overall, I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, but just because
Okay.
I felt like, I mean, you want to leave the audience wanting more, but not that
Yeah,
much more. Like
sure.
I feel like if this would have been 90 minutes or even 80 minutes,
Yeah,
I probably would have been all aboard, because I liked
right.
the characters and trying to figure what was going on
Yeah,
and what develops, but it just felt rushed
sure.
to me.
Gotcha, gotcha. No, that makes sense. I can definitely get that criticism. It is it moves quick, it kind of just throws you in and
Yeah,
tells
yeah.
a very small scale, contained story.
Mm-hmm.
But with all these, I feel like it sets up so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might have been the goal, is to see like, will people dig this? Will they not? Is it interesting enough to explore this area of the MCU further? And I think
Right,
it certainly
right.
is. And it sounds like you would be interested to see more of it as well,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I was just disappointed that it wasn't like fleshed out more, you know?
Yeah, sure, exactly. And I think we will get that because it is getting a good response overall. And I
Mm.
feel like, it could build to something more, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's a full on film or, his own
Mm-hmm.
series, or there's a comic series called Midnight Suns, which is a group of kind of supernatural characters like Werewolf by Night, Ghost Rider, Blade, Moon Knight,
Okay.
who got his own series earlier this year. Doctor Strange is sometimes involved there, so they could all end up getting their own film, and we could explore this side of it further. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
to me it was really intriguing, really interesting,
Mm-hmm.
and the music, of course. Giacchino's involved. He did the music for it as well. I thought was great.
Oh,
I
did he?
really
Yeah.
liked that opening Marvel fanfare where he kind of like horrified it a little bit. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I liked it was well made. So that's not the issue really.
Sure.
It's not, I mean, it's not bad if you want something to pop in that's short, or stream that's short.
Sure.
But yeah, I wanted more out of it, I think.
Gotcha. Good. Great. Well, let us know your thoughts in the comments below, what you thought of Werewolf by Night. All right, now we're going to jump into our top 5 horror movie list. But first, we're going to talk about how we pick these movies. So it's kind of a big process, and we've had some time to think about these. The way I thought about this was, when I'm picking a favorite of any genre, I want the whole genre to be represented as well as I can. So I'm not necessarily just picking my favorite 5 horror movies.
Okay.
I really wanted, each kind of subgenre of horror to be represented. So I've got a slasher
Good.
movie in there.
Mm-hmm.
I've got kind of a monster movie.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a psychological film. I've got something more supernatural as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
kind of wanted to cover all my bases and kind of, think about it as if, someone was coming up to me and saying, "Hey, I've never seen a horror movie. What's the horror genre all about?" These are the 5 movies I would hand them to go watch to kind of get an idea of what the genre is to me. But when I'm looking at any genre, any movie that I'm picking for any kind of top 5 list, I just want it to be a good movie. I want it to have a good story. I want there to be meaningful themes in it. I want there to be characters I care about. I want to have good cinematography and memorable music. I really just want it to be a good movie overall first. And then, as we're looking at horror, what is the horror genre? What does that mean? Well, the horror genre seeks to elicit fear in the audience. And so you need to kind of think about what you're afraid of. That's kind
Right.
of, what I was thinking about as well. I think each of these movies can kind of expose what you fear the most if you think about your favorite horror movies. A lot of mine are
Sure.
are
That's a good point.
a lot of mine are family oriented. It's about
Sure.
a dad and a children. Whenever children are involved, I feel like, man, it just makes it so much scarier,
Yeah, but I was
because
thinking about those kid actors. Like,
I
boy, did that
know,
traumatize the kid actor?
right? You would
I
think
look for
so.
cuts where I'm like, hopefully they cut right after this before the really awful thing
Yeah,
happened,
get the kid
and the kid
offset
moved.
and then film
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Right. So yeah, that for me kind of the main thing. I also realized I think I have a fear of drowning. That's probably one thing that's
Sure,
in
the
there as
stealthy.
well.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, those are a couple things that came to the forefront of my mind. Horror movies, they're typically dealing with darker subject matter. Obviously, they're typically steeped in controversy because horror movies are typically the ones that kind of push the boundaries of what's allowed in a movie. Censorship.
Mm-hmm.
We've had gone through all kinds of things throughout the history of film. You had the Hays Code, you had the production code. The MPA now is the thing that rates movies.
Yeah.
So horror movies for me, that the main thing they do is build tension. So we
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about that a lot in films, and every film I think does it in certain ways. Dramas just have it between characters. Conflict is tension. But here it does it more with the imagery and the music, and that kind of thing. I'm looking for imagery that stays with me, memorable shots, that stand out in my mind.
sure, yeah.
That's kind of what I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of my top five horror movies. That's kind of a breakdown
Mhm.
of my thought process. What was your process, Bert?
Yeah, I like that. Like especially the representation across the board of different subgenres. That's good. I basically just called the best films, well-made films that were also scary,
Hmm.
and as opposed to, I mean, we've seen so many of those scary movies that aren't that well made or else just have a thin plot, which I
Yeah.
would put most slasher films in that category. Unfortunately, I'm not a big fan of slasher
Hmm.
films because it's usually just the chase and that's it. I mean, there's
Right.
not usually much else going on there.
Sure.
I also I like horror films that don't reveal too much too soon
Yeah.
or maybe at all. That's always a skill that's hard to nail, I think,
Yep.
in a lot of movies. Let's see. Also, I like horror movies that are in unique locations.
Yeah.
I've seen too many haunted house horror movies, and there are
Sure.
some good ones,
Sure.
but it's just been so done. It's
Yeah.
been overdone, and so many of them are just bad.
Right.
And so unique locations, there's a few of them on my list here, and I'm sure you've got some in yours too, that they
Mm.
found a way to make a horror movie out of this thing, this place
Right.
that, and that kind of, so that's what I'm talking about.
Sure.
And I decided to go no films with aliens, for the most part.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we
you
should
know what
we
I
should
mean?
mention that because I did have one of these
Yeah.
on my list, and you messaged me right before the podcast and said, "Hey, what
Mhm.
do you think about just eliminating all the movies with aliens?" I was like, "That's actually a good idea because that is kind of, again, it's a subgenre of horror, but it could be sci-fi too. We could talk about that on another podcast."
There's a lot of good ones that are
Right.
in that category. So,
Yeah.
and then I read something online that said horror fiction has this specific intent to frighten, scare, disgust, or startle the viewer by inducing feelings of terror. They want to keep the viewer in a constant state of dread as the narrative continues on. So that threw out a few that are sort of crossover of thriller versus horror. So
Sure.
like
Okay.
The Village, Sixth Sense. I mean,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
and those are tremendous films.
Yeah.
And I could easily put them on this list, but again, I wanted to those two I just mentioned.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drama, and it's great
Right.
stuff, but
Sure.
it's not always trying to scare you. Whereas
Yeah.
pretty much all the films on my list, the whole time they're pretty much trying to tighten the screws,
Yes.
make things really intense and
Yes.
scary pretty
Right.
much the whole movie,
Yep.
the whole runtime. So yeah, so those are some of the thoughts I had going in.
Good. Awesome. Awesome stuff. Well, I guess we can just jump into our honorable mentions if you want to start
Okay,
off with
yeah,
those.
sounds good.
The first one I'll mention, we just brought up the whole alien thing, us eliminating those from the list. And the one that was closest, it was on my list until, we decided to eliminate those, was The Thing from 1982, John Carpenter film with Kurt Russell, their third collaboration. They just do a great job with that film. It is so tense the whole time. Because you don't know who the thing is. That's the whole,
Yeah,
premise of the
yeah,
film, is this alien creature can imitate anyone or anything. And so you don't
yeah,
know, which of these, there's, 12 guys in this, on this mission, these researchers out in Antarctica. And so
yeah.
it's frigid temperatures outside. They're all kind of trapped inside this one building.
Hmm.
And it's just so well done. It's really well shot, well edited. Ennio Morricone did the score for it, which is an
Oh,
incredible
yeah. Hmm.
score. And I think it's John Carpenter's best movie. He's directed several movies that I really like, but it's my favorite by far of all his. So
I've never seen the original. I really need to watch it. I love Kurt Russell,
okay,
but I actually really like the remake, although it's pretty disturbing, and I'm sure the original is too. I mean,
yeah.
there's
Oh,
some
you're
really
talking about the
wacky.
2011 version, right?
Yeah,
That's actually a
yeah.
prequel.
Oh, it's not a
Yeah.
remake.
No, it's
See, I
not.
mean,
So
I've never seen the original,
so
so I didn't know.
technically you watched it in the right order. You watched that one,
That's what
and
that was my intent the whole time.
when you watch the when you watch the original, which actually The Thing 1982 is a remake of a 1950s film called The Thing from Another World,
Oh,
which
interesting.
is, more of a kind of Frankenstein monster B movie. Yeah, you watched it in the right order. So now you can watch the 1982 one and be like, "Oh yeah, I know what happened before this. I know what all that is." They go and
Perfect.
visit they go and visit that place where the thing
Oh,
already.
really?
The other one I would have mentioned, another John Carpenter one, which was very close to making it, was Halloween, which I think is another great one. It's great because of how simple it is. I feel like it's just really straightforward slasher movie. It kind of reinvented the slasher genre. It's so well done. Carpenter does his own score for that one, as he usually does. Jamie Lee Curtis made her a star. And so that was one that I wanted to mention as well. One of the most profitable films ever made. It was only a budget of 300,000, made over 70 million. So it's one of the most
Wow.
profitable films of all time. The Movies That Made Us on Netflix, they did an episode about it, where you can
Okay.
learn all about the behind the scenes on that one there. So that was one I wanted to
Yeah.
mention as well. You
Yeah,
want
I
to give
should
me?
mention I should throw into there about Halloween.
Mhm.
I have seen the first one, it's been a while, and that one's it's okay. Back in the 80s, I watched every horror movie I could get my hands on, and it was
Yeah,
all kinds of slasher movies
sure,
were a big part of that.
sure,
And I thought they were, pretty good back then because they were
right.
scary.
Uh-huh.
But looking back now, they're not really that scary. I don't really
Yeah,
consider them good movies, most of them.
gotcha.
And
Right.
so yeah, that's my thoughts on and now they won't stop making Halloween movies
I
because they're trying
know. I know
to
the new one's out right now, and it supposedly is the last one, but yeah, I think they've overdone. I think there's like nine of them now or
Yeah,
something.
I don't know.
It's too
Yeah, but I
much.
was big into Michael Myers and all that. Or what's the other one? There's Halloween, and then what's the other big?
Friday the 13th.
Yeah, sorry, Friday the 13th. Yeah,
Yeah,
Jason, right?
right.
Yeah, so yeah, not so much now. I don't think I'd really like any of those
Yeah,
presently.
the original Halloween, I think it holds up. The first time I ever saw the original Halloween was last year or the year before,
Oh,
very, very
really?
recently.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
And I think
and
it
it's still
holds
pretty
up
good, huh?
very well. I've never seen
Yeah.
any of the sequels. I heard they're all
Oh,
terrible. Um,
yeah, they're
but
just
again, it's very simple premise. I just think it's very effective.
okay.
So maybe revisit the first one
Yeah,
and
the first
tell me
one.
what you
Okay.
think.
Yeah.
A few others I wanted to mention. I have to mention all the Universal monster movies. As I mentioned before, when we talked about Werewolf by Night, I'm a huge
Okay.
fan of all those. I just
Okay.
think they're really fun to watch. They're easy to watch. They're very short. They're just
Hmm.
most of them are just over an hour long. And they're kind of again, they kind of kicked off the horror genre. We
Hmm.
had a few horror movies in the silent era, but then, when the
Oh,
sound era began in the 30s, these
yeah.
movies were huge hits and
Yeah.
they just became instant icons. Everything you know about a vampire or a werewolf came from these movies. Most of
Gotcha.
them, of course, Bram Stoker had his novel, Mary Shelley's novel, Frankenstein, but the movies took them and put the images to the words in a way that
Mm,
I think
gotcha.
in pop culture, the staying power of these
Yeah.
movies is really incredible, actually.
Gotcha.
Particularly
Yeah.
Wolfman, because Wolfman wasn't based on any book or anything. It was just like based on some kind of folk tales and legends about people who became wolves. And they
Oh,
kind of came up with the whole, yeah, if you're bitten by a werewolf, you become a werewolf, the full moon. So all that kind of stuff, came from those films. So I just think they're really good. The actors in them, I think, are good. And, it's a totally
gotcha.
different style. People watching them today probably wouldn't enjoy them as much, but
Mhm.
I just had to mention them because I get a big
Yeah.
kick out of them.
Okay.
Any honorable mentions on your side?
Yeah. I'll go through a few real quick. In the 80s, there were some good ones in the 80s. Children of the Corn. I don't know if
Oh,
you saw
yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Yeah. I think you and I talked before about Phantasm 1 and 2. Those are
Oh,
both good.
yeah.
Those scared me in the 80s.
Yeah, I haven't seen the second one, but the first one I
Oh,
really
okay.
like. Yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah, that I think technically the first one was in the 70s, but
Right. Yeah, 79.
and then Poltergeist is a really good
Oh,
one.
sure.
That's
Yeah. That one's
scary.
right up there. Yeah, that's a good
And the
one.
Blob. I don't know if you saw the Blob.
I haven't seen the 80s blob. I have
The
the
80s, yeah.
there's the 50s one right
Oh,
there, which
okay,
is
okay.
fun. It's one of those drive-in B
Yeah,
movies, it's
right,
fun.
right.
But I do want to see the remake because I hear it's pretty freaky.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since the 80s, but
Okay.
back then it scared me.
Sure.
Few more modern ones that are good honorable mentions. 1408 with John
I
Cusack.
didn't see that.
I remember that one being pretty good. I really like the newer. You're gonna probably say the original is way better, but The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Oh
I
yeah, the
like the newer
original's
one
way
with
better.
Keanu. Yeah, but
the,
the
the
original
new
didn't have Keanu.
Right, that's true.
How
And
could it be
Keanu,
better if it didn't have Keanu?
yeah, that's true. Good point. Good point. He does play an alien very well.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, the new one didn't really do it for me.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it has moments. I actually own it, and I only own it because it came with the original version, both movies
It
in
was
one. But
free, so that's why
yeah,
you own it.
exactly,
Yeah.
right.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's
Investment.
not to me not as good. It has its moments,
Uh-huh.
I like aspects of it, but yeah, I
Yeah.
prefer the original one.
Gotcha. There's a film in 2009 called Knowing with Nicolas Cage. That's actually
Oh yeah, I
pretty
didn't care for
good.
that one.
You didn't care for that one? Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And then this one is kind of a slasher one. It's called The Strangers. That came out, I think, maybe in 15 or 17. Have you
I've
seen The
heard of it. I haven't
Strangers?
seen it. Yeah.
People that knock on the door and they got masks on, and then
Okay.
yeah, yeah, it's
Hmm.
that's pretty good.
One I wanted to mention from the 60s, Eyes Without a Face. It's a French film. You can watch it right now on HBO Max. It's got some pretty disturbing imagery in it, especially for the time.
Yeah,
It's really dark,
pretty out there.
creepy.
Okay.
So that one I enjoy. Also from the 60s, the first zombie movie, Night of the Living Dead. I got the Criterion edition last year.
Okay.
It's
I should
great.
watch that one because I like zombie movies.
Yeah, I mean it's
I've
very
seen
rough.
almost
I mean
all of
it's
those remakes.
Oh, have you? Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd get a kick out of watching it, I'm sure. It's not as scary, of course, just because it's
Yeah,
older and but it has
right.
certainly some frightening moments and just for the historical significance of the first zombie movie, George Romero, his
Yeah,
first movie kind of
yeah.
was built a career off of that whole genre. And I really enjoy it. I think it's very well
Okay,
acted. It's got a lot of
okay.
social and cultural issues it's dealing with under the surface. Yeah, that one I enjoy a lot. That one's streaming. It's on HBO Max. It's on Prime. It's on a few of the different streaming services. A couple other ones. Alien. That's such a great
Yeah,
film. Ridley
yeah.
Scott, just does a great job. The design and look of that movie. It's
Mhm.
so claustrophobic and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it's just so good, so good. So that one I liked a lot. The last ones I wanted to mention were Cronenberg films. David Cronenberg, who did Videodrome.
I've never seen that
Um,
one.
Really? Okay. Well, if you
Yeah.
like body horror, it's like the ultimate body horror. It's kind of his first foray into that whole subgenre of horror that he became known for. James Woods is in it. He does a great job acting, and I
Mhm.
really like that one. I think he topped it though with The Fly from
Oh yeah, I've
1986.
never seen. I'm well aware of the film, but I've never seen that one.
Okay,
Jeff
yeah, that's
Goldblum. Yeah.
another just disgusting movie.
Oh yes, I don't know if.
Um,
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't know if
it's
I'd
kind of
like
like
that
The
one.
Thing, where it has those
Right.
very
It does have
horrifying,
disgusting parts. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, really great effects, practical effects work in that, lots of gore. So that's a fun one. Goldblum's great in it, and Gina Davis,
Oh
who
yeah.
they
Hmm.
ended up getting married, I think, right after they filmed that.
Oh, you may be right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's based on a book, and that one also
Oh,
had a 1950s film version as well. I believe with Vincent Price. Yeah, those are the other ones I wanted to mention.
a few others I'll roll through. Pet Cemetery from the 80s.
Oh, sure. I
Yeah,
haven't
it's really
seen it, but
scary.
I've heard it's
Even
good.
now, it's scary. It's just disturbing though. It's
Yeah,
not one I like to watch a lot because it's got some really disturbing themes.
yeah,
Saw 1 and 2. I don't love the torture parts of them, but the
yeah.
first two films specifically were good in the sense that they have really great surprise endings,
Oh, okay,
and especially the first one, it's this huge surprise at the end, and it just
okay,
blows your mind. And then the
okay.
second one too kind of has that going on, but I don't love the torture stuff so much. It's a little bit
Right,
too
sure.
much.
Yeah, I want to check
But
that out because James Wan I know directed the first one, and he's a director I
yes,
like.
yeah, it is a good. They are good movies. Then The Mist from 2007.
This
Have you
is
ever
on
seen
my
that?
watch list right now.
Is
I just saw
is it
I think they have it on Netflix or somewhere. I was like, I need to
really
watch
okay?
that.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great monster film. It's based on the Stephen King. I think it's a book or no, maybe it's a short story. I think it's a short story.
Okay.
And it's set in a grocery store,
Mm,
and I won't say much about it, but there's all kinds of creature fun and great characters in the movie.
okay.
And it's very well made. It's interesting though. It's a controversial movie.
Mm,
First of all, because of the ending, and I'm not going to tell you what happens, but
okay.
we definitely have to talk about it after you've
Yeah.
seen it.
Sure, sure.
And I don't hate the ending, but it's just very controversial. So
Okay,
hopefully you don't know
okay.
what happens in the end.
Gotcha.
And then also this movie is kind of considered a classic in some ways because they actually came out with a black and white version of the movie The Mist, because
Oh.
it kind of has that flavor of like an older like 50s kind
Oh,
of movie.
interesting. Okay.
And then again, I have one friend who says there's terrible acting in the movie. I don't agree
Oh,
with
really?
that. But I'd be
Okay.
interested in your opinion once you see it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
So
put it high on the watch list. So I'll definitely watch it in the next couple of weeks for sure.
yeah, it's a great one.
Cool.
Let Me In is
Oh,
from
yes.
2010. And in case anybody has not seen it, the less you know, the better. I knew
Yeah.
nothing about where the film was going,
Right.
and it's a brilliant film. And I've never seen probably a character that I sympathize with so much, and yet am completely disgusted by at the same
Yes.
time.
Yes, I
It's
know. Yeah.
That's all I'll say because it's very good to just let it appear and not know anything about it. I'm just
Yes.
enough
Great
said about
film.
that.
Great film. I
Let Me In,
agree.
and I think it's a remake or something
It
of a
is. It's a
foreign
remake
film.
of a Swedish film, I think.
Okay,
Yeah, Matt Reeves
yeah.
directed that. He did Cloverfield. He did the new Batman.
Oh yeah,
Great
yeah,
director. Great movie. I'm
yes,
glad you brought that up.
yeah. Chloe Grace Moretz,
Yep.
great actress, great actress, and
Definitely.
Richard Jenkins is always
Yep.
good. Babadook. Have you heard of that
I've
movie?
heard of it. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, a lot of people say they don't like it. I think it's pretty good. That's another one to
Okay.
check out.
Okay.
Uninvited, from
Hmm.
2009, has a really great twist ending too,
Okay.
and that's what I'll say about it. It's a really well made film, and it's a very enjoyable film. That's a good one. And then It Chapter 1 and 2.
Yep.
And they're very well made. I got to go back and
All
watch
right.
them again. I enjoyed them, but
Yeah.
they didn't make my top five. So
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Those are good as well. I like those. Yeah. I haven't seen the original with Tim Curry, which is, I guess, a mini series or something, but
yeah, yeah, I've seen that
um,
too. Yeah, that's also
yeah.
pretty good.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I
It is
like
a
the new
TV
one a
movie
lot.
though, the
Okay. Right. Yeah.
the
Budget's not as
original.
big.
So
Sure.
right. Yep.
All right. So we're ready to jump into our top five lists now. Bert, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, at number five, I have Insidious.
Oh, I've not
And
seen this.
oh, you have not? Okay,
Oh,
yeah. And it's got a few sequels too, I think.
right.
Stars Patrick Wilson, the same guy
Hmm.
that is in Conjuring and its sequels.
Great actor.
And yeah, yeah. And I like the Conjuring movies as well.
Hmm.
But Insidious is a haunted house film.
Okay.
And it's the best one I've seen, and it is very scary. Since you haven't seen it, it's a little bit harder to explain what exactly is going on. I'm just not going to because it's better if you just don't know.
Okay.
But
Okay.
um, there's when the scary stuff happens, it's good and scary. I guess that's the best
Okay.
way to say it,
Sure.
without giving anything away. And
Right.
Rose Byrne is in it too. Lynn
Oh,
Shay, who has done comedy in the past, she's particularly good in it too.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just a great ensemble haunted house film,
Mm.
and it's very well made. It's very polished, but it
Mm.
just gives great scares. And what they do with certain aspects of it are things that I haven't seen in other movies like it. So for that reason,
Oh,
it's my favorite haunted house film, and I'd put it at number five.
I like that. Yeah, I'm glad. I appreciate you not giving away anything because I do want to
Yeah.
check it
Oh
out.
yeah.
And
I barely watch trailers. You know me. I mean, if it's like
sure,
one I really
sure.
want to see, I won't even watch the trailers sometimes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. I'll put that on my list. I think it's already in my watch list, but maybe I'll bump it up. That was your number five. So now we're on to my number five, which is The Shining.
Oh
This
yeah.
is a 1980 film directed by Stanley Kubrick. And I think it is one of his best. It's kind of the first epic horror film, almost 2.5 hours long. It's kind of this just descent into madness
Hmm.
as we follow the Torrance family. Jack Torrance is our aspiring writer, he's played by Jack Nicholson, probably his most iconic role, one of his best
Yeah,
acting
maybe so.
performances as well, I think. And he accepts a job at the Overlook Hotel during their off season to kind of just watch over the grounds. He brings his
Hmm.
wife and his young son along with him, and this is technically a haunted house film too, a haunted hotel film, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Right.
And so but it's very much psychological horror movie. A lot of very disturbing imagery that stays with you,
Yeah.
certainly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's based on the Stephen King novel. King notoriously
Right.
doesn't like the movie, doesn't really like any of the movies based on his books. He never feels like they're able to capture
I
what
know.
he puts on the page. But I've never read the book, so I think it's great. I really enjoy just the visual storytelling is really phenomenal. They actually used Steadicam on this, which is a new technology that was just invented a couple years before
Oh,
this movie.
gotcha.
So just really unique visuals, really good music. The whole cast is great. You know, Nicholson, of course, but Shelley Duvall doesn't get enough
Hmm.
credit for how great she is in it as well. She was apparently kind of tortured on set by Kubrick, who, is a notorious perfectionist and has, part of the reason he's such a great director is because he has a very clear vision in his mind of what he wants to see.
Yeah.
Not just, with the visuals and with what the camera is doing, but with the actors and their performances. So he would do at least 40 takes per scene in this
Wow.
movie.
Wow.
So it took a long time to make, and it holds the record for the most takes ever for a film. The scene between a character played by Scatman Crothers, Dick Halloran, and the young boy Danny, who's played by an actor named Danny Lloyd. They have a conversation. It's about a 7-minute scene. They have a conversation about
Hmm.
what The Shining actually is. And they did 148 takes of that scene. Just excellent. I mean, iconic moments. The twins that we see throughout the movie, the hallway of blood that comes out of the elevator. I mean, just these
Yeah.
amazing moments. The maze at the end of the movie. Here's Johnny. That iconic
Right.
quote from it. So just so many iconic moments, and it's one of those movies that makes you think. And another reason, another thing I'm maybe afraid of is, what if you or someone went crazy one day? They just
Yeah.
snapped
Yeah.
and
Right.
went after you with an axe. That's one of those fears that I guess is there
Mhm.
present in all of us probably. Also kind of makes you question reality. It's like I mentioned, this kind of supernatural psychological film. You don't know what's real, what's not.
Yeah.
If you watch it late at night and you're kind of tired, you'll probably have nightmares for a while. Robert De Niro was up for the role of Jack Torrance, and
Really?
yeah, he was. Martin Sheen was. Harrison Ford was. A
Wow.
lot of actors were, and De Niro said that he was glad he didn't make it because just watching it gave him nightmares for over a week. So
Wow.
I think it's just really well done on every level. It's just
Yeah.
expert filmmaking, and there's actually a great sequel to it as well, Doctor Sleep. It's streaming right now on HBO Max. It has Ewan McGregor in it, and I think it's a really good follow up. So yeah, The Shining. That's my number five.
Yeah, and it is a good one. I probably could have put that one on my honorable mentions.
Mhm.
It is very well made, and I'm it's probably Kubrick's best. And I'm not a Kubrick fan,
Okay.
but still, I think it is a very it certainly scared me when I was younger watching it.
It's creepy.
I don't think I saw it until I was an adult though, but still, as a
Yeah.
younger adult, it
Right.
was pretty creepy. Yeah,
Yeah, for
good one.
sure. For sure. All right. That's my number five. What is your number four?
Mine is 2001's Session 9.
Oh, I haven't even heard of this.
Oh, you heard of it? Okay.
I don't think so.
Stars Peter Mulan, who's tremendous in the Ozark series, and David Caruso,
Hmm.
and a few other people. It's a small cast. It's a low budget film,
Hmm.
but this movie does have a following.
Hmm.
And what it's about is a group of guys are hired to go into this abandoned insane asylum, and they are cleaning out the asbestos that's in the insane asylum to get it ready for whatever they're going to use the structure for next. It was filmed at a real insane asylum that had been abandoned, so it was filmed
Oh,
at a real location.
wow.
And it's a horror film that takes place mostly during the day,
Hmm.
and it's about what happens to these guys. Again, I don't want to give much away, but it's about what happens to these guys when they go in there to do this cleanup work.
Hmm.
And as you can imagine, it's not all happy things that happen to them.
Sure.
But the fact that it takes place mostly during the day makes this a bit of an exception, because most movies are a dark palette, or at night, one
Right.
one or the other.
Right.
And it's one that I would really recommend you seek out, because right from the opening scene, there's deception going on to you
Hmm.
as the viewer, and you won't
Oh,
know it until the end. But
okay.
it's one of those that when it ends, not necessarily like there's a bit of a surprise ending, but if you think all the way back to the beginning and through the whole movie, it's not really what you think is happening.
Interesting.
One of those kind. And even
Yeah.
aside from that, the whole movie is pretty good. There's some scares and that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, just a lot of thought went into it, and just a very well made horror movie. Again, it's
Okay.
hard to find even a
Yeah.
low budget one that I probably want to sit through normally,
Sure.
but yeah, it's a really, really, I've had people tell me that feel this is also their scariest movie that they've ever seen and
Oh,
stuff. So,
wow. Wow. Okay,
so
cool.
others, like I said, it does have a bit of a following, but yeah,
Yeah.
if you can find it, if it's
Hmm.
from 2001, I'd definitely check that one out.
Yeah, what you're describing is reminding me a little of Shutter Island. Is
Oh,
it that kind
okay.
of vibe to it? Have you seen
Well, I
that?
mean, Shutter Island obviously is very big budget, polished
Yeah,
kind of
right.
movie, but
But it's another insane
um,
asylum like kind of
yeah,
story.
exactly. Yeah, along those lines, this is more of like it feels a little more realistic and a little
Oh,
less
okay.
glossy,
Less
I
less
guess, if you will.
supernatural maybe or
There's definitely supernatural elements to it
okay.
for
Okay.
sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, you won't the look of the film is just completely different than
Right.
Shutter
Okay.
Island, which
Gotcha.
actually I should have put that one on my honorable mentions
Yeah,
too.
it's a good one.
Because yeah, it's a very well-made movie as well.
Hmm. Yeah. In at number four on my list is Psycho from
Mm.
1960. This is Alfred Hitchcock's groundbreaking psychological horror film. I consider this the first slasher movie. This really
Sure.
kind of kicked off that whole genre, in my opinion, because there's nothing
Hmm.
really like it before it. Everything from Halloween to Friday the 13th owes a debt to Psycho. I feel like because this is the first movie that is like that. Hitch was nominated for Best Director for it. It is a lower budget movie for him, especially at this point in his career. He made a name for himself throughout the 40s and 50s as the master of suspense, and became this hugely popular director. And no studio wanted him to make this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no one wanted him to do this. They just felt it was pushing things too far. It was very controversial when it was released, and so it's about $800,000 budget, which even back then was pretty low. But everyone had to go see it, so it made over 50 million, and
Wow.
it did very well. I was watching this great box set, and the behind the scenes on it is really cool because they show just these lines down the block of people waiting to get into the theater to go watch it. Um,
Wow.
so people were very curious about it. The trailer for it
Yeah.
is interesting. Hitchcock is just there giving you a tour of the Bates Motel and the Bates house.
That's the trailer?
That's the trailer. He's just like, yeah, and this picture is in the movie and it's very important, but I'm not going to tell you what it's about. And this kind of he kind of takes you around. And so
That's
he didn't want
different.
he didn't
Yeah.
want to give anything away. He was very secretive
Yeah.
about it. He didn't even tell people working on the movie what the twist
Uh,
was. It's just great. It's so well shot, so well edited.
mhm.
The performances are great. Janet Leigh, mother of Jamie
Yeah.
Lee Curtis, who would
Oh,
do
that's
kind of the
right.
same thing in Halloween years later. So she's in it. She's great. She was nominated Best Supporting Actress. Anthony Perkins is great as Norman Bates. He's got this great kind of innocence to him, this awkwardness to him that it's just such a great nuanced performance that I feel he was robbed of a nomination. At least he should have received, but he
Mm.
didn't. Well shot, best cinematography nomination as well for John Russell, best art direction as well. It's just well put together, well edited. George Tomasini, who had worked with Hitchcock on Rear Window and Vertigo, North by Northwest, edited the film. He did a really great job. The edits on it are so important and are really almost a character in the film and
Mm.
really
Wow.
especially during the shower scene. That's kind of the
Yeah,
iconic
sure.
scene in the film. Every cut, every edit is a cut of the knife as it's coming down,
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
it's really well done. That of course the score is iconic. It's probably the most iconic horror theme. It's that very
Probably,
simple
yeah.
but very
That
memorable
and Jaws, maybe.
music.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So yeah, Bernard Herrmann, who's a guy I mentioned on our film score podcast, he's been working since the 70s or since the 40s, worked all the way through the 70s. Citizen Kane, Jason and the Argonauts, all the way through Taxi Driver, he did with Martin Scorsese. So great composer, really, really great music. And it's this great kind of story because it builds so well. I feel like, the opening of the film, we're with Janet Leigh's character and she steals this money, and she kind of goes on the run to start this new life for herself.
Ah,
And it's at the Bates Motel where she has this encounter with this character, and so it becomes a kind of murder mystery story after that. So it kind of morphs into these different kind of genres, but it does so, I think, very seamlessly. It flows very well. I just think it really is a phenomenally made movie on every level. The performances with how realistic it was,
Hmm.
especially for the time. Probably the most influential horror film of all time. I feel like it's his scariest movie he ever made. Yeah, it had to make the list just because of its historical significance, and it covers that kind of slasher genre that I was kind of looking to fill. Had
Yeah.
Halloween there, and I thought, no, this is, I think, a little bit of a better movie, and it came first. So
Yeah.
that's why it made the list.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up. And I will mention too that the Bates Motel TV series is pretty good too.
Oh, okay. I haven't checked that out. Yeah, I've heard it's good
Yeah,
though.
I really like it. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, Psycho. By the way, it's streaming on Peacock right now.
Mm,
For anyone with Peacock, if you haven't
good.
seen it, you can watch it there. Now we're on to year number three.
My number three is 2010's Devil.
Oh,
Um,
the Shyamalan produced movie.
yes,
I
he wrote
like
it
this
too,
movie.
actually.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right. Yes. Yes, I
yeah,
like this one.
yeah. I think originally it was going to be called M Night Tales or something like that, and
Oh, right. Yeah, it
then
was going to be a whole
Devil
like
was going to be the
anthology
subtitle.
series.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's
Right.
right.
And so people that haven't seen it, a group of people are trapped in an elevator. One of them may be the devil, and stars Chris Messina as a cop investigator.
Hmm.
And I don't know any of the actors that are in the elevator, and that's fine. There's nothing
Hmm.
wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's kind of good actually.
Hmm.
You know how when there's a big name actor and you start thinking, okay, they probably won't die because,
Right.
and every once in a while they'll fool you, but they're like,
Right.
yeah, he's going to be the one left standing at the end.
Sure.
And just some really bad stuff happens on this elevator.
Yeah.
I noticed, I watched this last night actually again. I've seen it 3 or 4 times, but
Mm.
this is a really great horror score, and the
Oh.
music really is probably one of the best. Yeah, probably one of the best ones I've heard. I mean, that's probably just the best way to state it.
Mm.
So I wanted to point out the music, and the premise. I mean, it's stripped down like basic, most basic premise you can pretty much get. It's kind of like
Mm.
Saw in that sense,
Right.
two people in a room and then things
Sure.
happen and it's
Yep.
just all in this room. And
Sure.
so I like that. I like those kind of concepts. Like, can it entertain me?
Right.
For 90 minutes. I think it was more like 80 minutes, but
Yeah.
and then it's very compelling, like, because we've all been in that situation and we never want to be in that. We've all been on an elevator, I should say,
Right.
but we none of us ever want it to stop, right? And
Yes.
then you're like,
Yes.
oh no, now I'm going to be like personally involved in this person's life. Please get this elevator going. So
Right.
it's a great setup, and it's tense, terrifying. I mean, it keeps you guessing till the very. I think it keeps you guessing till the very end of the film.
Yep.
By the way, it sets up something very cleverly, and I'm not going to say what it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then so anyway, it's just a great little film that I mean, I got a number 3 all time, and that's how tight I think this horror movie is, because it's just about perfect.
Yeah.
5-star film.
Yeah. It is excellent. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I saw it. I want to say I saw this in theaters actually, because this
Ah,
is around the time I was really getting into film and M. Night specifically. I was watching all his
yeah,
movies. So
yeah,
I was really excited about it. And yeah, it definitely kept me engaged all the way through, kept me guessing.
yeah,
Great performances, really tight. I like a nice, again, it's tight in that it's all in an elevator, but it's just a tight runtime too, where it's
yes,
very
yeah,
efficiently told
yep.
story. So yeah, I think that's a great pick. And yeah, I need to watch it again because it's been a while. All right, on to my number three. I wanted to have a monster movie. And so this is where The Thing was gonna be.
Ah,
But I decided to switch it out after we decided no alien movies with this movie that I was like, yeah, this movie is as good. I actually think it's better than The Thing, and
mm,
that is Jaws. Um,
ah, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned this
Jaws.
one too. Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, 1975. And I think, it's funny because it didn't really cross my radar initially, because I think I just associate this movie with summer because it takes place in the
Mm,
summer. It's like
yeah,
Fourth of July
sure.
weekend and all that. And so I don't think of it as an October movie. I think of it as a
Sure.
July
Yeah.
movie, but
I
it's
see your
definitely a
point.
horror
Yeah.
film,
Yeah. Right.
So it's just, like you were mentioning about, that other movie you were talking about before Session 9. This one's all pretty much in the daylight, it's
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
beach,
Exactly.
which is a
Yeah.
unique setting for a horror film.
Right. Right.
So it checks that box as well.
Hmm.
Um, but this, of course, is Spielberg's kind of breakout hit. This is his third movie. His first movie is a movie called Duel, which is actually another
Oh,
cool little thriller.
yeah,
He
I have not
did,
seen that one.
yeah, he actually, it was a made for TV movie that was
Oh,
so good they ended up releasing it in theaters.
really? Wow.
Yeah, so it's a fun movie about a guy getting chased by this truck. And then he did a movie called
Oh,
Sugarland Express with Goldie Hawn, which is
okay.
loosely based on a true story.
Oh,
Um, Kind of a crime film. But then he did Jaws, and this, of course, is based on Peter Benchley's novel. And
oh.
he actually assisted writing the screenplay with a
Mm.
guy named Carl Gottlieb. And so, Spielberg gets a hold of the book and is dying to make this film. And, you know, he's got a fairly good budget, 9 million. It's a pretty good budget for a young filmmaker. And it went notoriously wrong. The production of this was probably the most troubled production in the history of Hollywood
Really? Oh.
because nothing worked right. They had, of
Oh, the
course, this
shark didn't work
mechanical
right.
shark that was the whole movie, was this
And
shark
water.
in water, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And it
Oh,
was one of the
wow.
first films shot in the water.
Ah,
They didn't shoot a lot of movies in the water because it was so
right.
difficult. And the
Yeah.
equipment,
Yeah.
gets wet and it's ruined. And
Kind of
so
like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. They had similar water problems years later.
correct. Yeah. So the shark, which they nicknamed Bruce for some reason, did not work. And so that forced him to get creative. And he had to shoot this movie in a way where we didn't see the monster, which made it, of course, even scarier. And that's a big reason why this movie works so well, is because Spielberg had to get very creative in how he was shooting it. He would shoot parts of the shark, he would just shoot the water kind of moving or whatever he would do to get
Gotcha.
this the feeling like we were about to get attacked by a shark. And so he just did a phenomenal job directing. And this is the movie that made him a household name,
Hmm.
got him
Yeah.
Indiana Jones, and all kind every other movie that he made is because of this one.
Yeah.
He assembled a great cast. Roy Scheider is fantastic as Sheriff Brody. Um, Robert Shaw, of course, as Quint, iconic role. Richard Dreyfuss, one of his early roles
Right.
as Hooper. So you have this um, family man, the sheriff again. This is where the family aspect comes in, where he's just moved here with his family to kind of settle down in this quiet town, seaside coastal town, and he's afraid of the water, of course. A sheriff of a beach town, afraid of the water, which is just great. And then Quint is this kind of tough shark hunter, this World War II veteran. And then you have Hooper, who's kind of the young marine biologist who's kind of curious about the kind of science aspect of it. So these three different characters, very different people, don't get along very well, and they have to band together to defeat this monster. And so that's kind of the whole premise.
Yeah.
That's really what the movie's about. And it just, again, it's building tension so well. The score by John Williams, of course, we already mentioned, is just genius. It's two notes basically, but
Yeah.
they work
Right.
so well. Spielberg thought it was a joke when he played it for him. He's like, two notes, that's all you got for me? Come on. And he's like, no, it's gonna work, trust me. And of course it works great. So
Yeah.
it was nominated for best score, best
Oh.
sound. There's great sound design, not
Hmm.
only above the water but under the water. All those sequences are really great, and they really are immersive, no pun intended. So I think it's all very well done on a technical level. Uh, Again, the reason it works is because of the characters. I think they make you care so much about Brody and his family. He's got this young son. There's this great scene. My favorite scene in the movie is where he's sitting there at the dinner table and his son copies him, and they're kind of just doing these things, and it's just a kind of realistic moment that kind of draws you into the story and makes you care. So just a great movie overall. It's terrifying. It literally made people afraid to go into the water. People still think about I every time I go to the beach, I think about this movie.
Sure.
And so it's one of those that definitely stays with you. The imagery of,
Yeah.
the shark and all of it. It builds to a great climax. It's just
Yeah.
great. Everything about it. All shot on location in Martha's Vineyard.
Oh,
And so yeah, just all in all, great movie. Extremely difficult to make, but it turned out very well. It's the first
yeah.
blockbuster. I mean, it made
Ah,
over, $400 million when it came out.
wow. Holy
Um,
cow.
which,
Yeah.
yeah, was the biggest film of all time until Star Wars came out in 77. But
Yeah.
yeah, so Jaws had to make the list.
That's a good one. I've seen it 2 or 3 times over the years. I should watch it again though. It is a good one.
Yeah, we watch it every year. It's one that we watch. My
Yeah.
wife loves it, so we watch it
Gotcha.
at least once a year. All right, so that was my number three. On to your number two.
My number two is Us from Jordan Peele.
Oh, great pick. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm struggling with like how much to give away. So I'll just say probably what you'd see on a like a quick recap, which is that this family are at home. There's a husband, wife, and 2 kids, and these people come up to the door and basically they terrorize them. And
Right.
I mean that's just one way to put it, but
Sure.
um yeah, and this is to me this is about the best example of a movie that is horror and just very layered. So, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot of filmmakers that have layered films. This is
Hmm.
about as deep as it gets
Sure.
because, again, I don't want to give away much, but there's a lot of themes of reflection and, boy, I don't even really know how to describe it, but Jordan Peele, the filmmaker, he really wants to make you gasp when you experience the horror, and
Right.
on the one hand, and then he wants you to find out the clues that are provided, and then when you go back and watch it, this is one that second, third viewing, you can really see what they're going for. In fact, even still, I've missed stuff, and I think I told you this before, but trusty old YouTube, I went and and watched 1 or 2 videos on other things that I missed
Sure.
that the filmmaker lays out there that is they're fairly obvious, but
Right.
you don't catch them. I mean, this thing is just packed with entertainment. It's scary and sort of this undercurrent of a whole other theme that's going on.
Right.
And you've
Right.
seen Us, right?
I have, and it's great. Yeah, it's a great
Yeah,
pick for exactly what you're saying. It has so many layers, and yeah, it's just it's very scary. And again, going back to that family aspect, this family is in danger. You want them to make it out,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so
exactly.
it's got that going for it. It's just super well done technically, and then yeah, all the
Yeah.
layers underneath, the kind of meaning
Mm-hmm.
behind it, and
Mm-hmm.
there's so much to explore. I've only seen it once, so I can't wait to watch it again and pick up on things. But yeah, I've watched some YouTube videos as well on Peele's work because I like
Yeah.
Get Out, I like Nope, I like
I
all
like
of his
both of those
movies.
too. Yeah, those are both good
So
too. Yeah.
yeah, but Us is definitely the scariest, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still think Get Out is my favorite,
Oh, really?
um,
Okay.
but Nope is great too. But Us, yeah, Us is definitely the scariest. Just the imagery and just how the characters look, what they're wearing, and how they
Yeah. And
move, and
it's
I mean, it's
right.
so well done.
And it just feels like what if some crazy people walked up to your front door
Right,
and it's kind of like the movie the Strangers, but this is way
right,
better than The Strangers.
yeah.
But
That
yeah,
home
and
invasion
then
thing,
yes, yeah,
right?
right. It plays right into something that
Yeah,
everybody probably thinks about here and
sure.
there, and this is worst case scenario.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and what's interesting
Almost.
is the movie is so big in a way. Like it
Yeah.
starts very intimate, and then
True.
the
Yeah.
layers are
Yeah.
peeled back, you're like, oh, this is a big thing, and it's like got this whole mythology to it. Like it's just really interesting movie.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So that's my number two.
Great pick. All right, I'll jump into my number two, which is the most recent film on my list, made in 2016. It's a Korean film called Train to Busan,
Mm,
and you can get it on Blu-ray, but it's also streaming pretty much everywhere. Prime,
yeah.
YouTube, Peacock, Redbox, Roku, they all have it. But I had to own this because this is one that is again, tying into the family aspect, it's about an estranged
Mhm.
father and daughter who take this train ride to go see her mother. And while they're on the train ride, a zombie apocalypse begins. And it is just terrifying. I mean, the way they do the zombie thing, it's the, infected zombies, right? So if they
Mhm.
bite you, you become a zombie.
Right.
And it's just it's the genre is almost more action thriller
Sure.
than,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's got horror elements. It's a zombie movie, but it's very fast paced.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
These are the zombies. These are the fast ones, not the slow ones.
they are
Right.
fast. Yes, they run
Because Night of
after
the
you.
Living Dead, they're slow, and you
Right.
can, probably, brush your teeth or whatever else while they're
Right.
standing next to you before they actually get to you. But these
Exactly.
run fast,
These run, they're very
kind of like World
fast.
War Z.
Yeah, right. And I'm glad you brought up
Mhm.
World War Z, because a lot of people, I think, would be reminded of World War Z when they watch this or watch the trailer
Probably,
for
yeah.
it.
Hmm.
This is, to me, leaps and bounds better. I'm not a huge fan of World War Z. I didn't think it was a
Yeah, it was
great
just
movie.
okay. It was just
Yeah.
okay.
But
Yeah.
this one, the reason this one works, they get you to invest in the relationship so
Hmm.
well. You care so much about these characters. The first, 15 minutes or so is all about these characters and their relationships and what they're going through. And so you care so much about them. Again, they're kind of estranged. The father and daughter, they're not very close. So you want them to mend their relationship, and then this craziness ensues. And so they're interacting with these other characters that are trying to survive, and it's just, it's claustrophobic. It's all on a train, so it's got that, unique location going for it. It's just so well done. The cast does a great job. The
Hmm.
direction is excellent as well. I was watching the behind the scenes, and the director is just a very calm and cool guy on set. All
Oh
this
yeah.
craziness is happening, but he's very cool about it. He kind of goes
Uh,
over, talks to the actors, and it's just, it seemed like it was a great experience making the movie, because the girl in it is quite young. I would say she's probably maybe around 11 years old, somewhere around there. And so, her being in danger constantly puts you on the edge of your seat. It's got a good score. It's very well shot. And it's kind of that whole idea of what will people do to survive.
hmm.
I think I was thinking about it going through this hurricane recently.
Mm.
After a hurricane comes through, the power's out. And if you go out of your house, if you start driving around, power lines are down. So there's no red lights. It becomes Mad Max out there. And
Yeah.
so you kind of start thinking about survival situations, and what would you be willing to do, and what would other people be willing to do that you would have to confront. And so there's all that stuff. The relationship dynamics in it are so good, because the father and daughter are trying to survive, but there's a husband and a wife that are pregnant with a baby that they're there trying to
Hmm.
survive as well, and an older lady is there. And so there's all these different dynamics in these situations that come into play and make it, just that much more tense. And so,
Yeah.
definitely the best zombie movie I've ever seen. So yeah, it had to make the list. I know you're not as big into foreign films, but it's one you should check out.
I did watch this one. Yeah.
Oh, did
I
you?
thought it
Oh,
was
cool.
good. Oh
Oh,
yeah. Oh
good.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
I watch most zombie mainstream movies, I guess,
Yeah.
but
Right.
yeah, this one got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And I thought it was good. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting you say best zombie film. I don't know what my favorite one is. I feel like I'm
Yeah.
still waiting for that great zombie
Mm,
film.
okay.
And it might be Zombieland, but as
Oh
far as like a
yeah.
serious one, like
Zombieland's good.
I really liked the Walking Dead series for at least a few
Okay.
seasons.
Okay. I haven't seen
And I
that.
feel like, yeah, I feel like there's not been a movie, unless I'm just forgetting it, that
Okay.
approaches that level of quality.
Okay. Gotcha.
But I mean, this one was a good one.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, that's a good pick though. I remember liking that one.
Cool. Yeah. It ended up being the biggest Korean film, broke their record when it came
Wow,
out for the biggest box office of all
of
time,
any
and
movie ever.
of any movie in Korea.
Uh-huh.
Korean film
Wow. Yeah,
released
right.
released in
Wow.
Korea. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
interesting that a horror film is
I
their number
know.
one.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, my wife hates horror movies. She can't
Hmm.
stand it. She likes the comedy ones. She likes Zombieland, stuff like that.
Ah,
But
yeah.
this one she really likes,
Gotcha.
because she gets really
Okay.
invested in the story. And again, that's what I think makes a great movie in the first place. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I need to
train.
watch it again. I need to
Yeah,
watch it
yeah,
again.
yeah. It's like I said, it's streaming everywhere, so you can
Okay,
watch it
good.
anywhere. Okay, so that's my number two. On to your number one. What's your number one horror movie, Bert?
Well, it will explain the hand behind me. What
Okay,
Lies Beneath is my number one.
great pick.
And this movie's come up before. We did Robert Zemeckis's best
Sure.
films,
Yep.
and this is right up there too.
Yep.
And it's just a perfect ghost story. I feel
Yeah.
like I
Hmm.
think it's set in the northeast of the United States, but
Yep. I think it's in
um,
Maine.
oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right. And it's just a really tremendous ghost story. It's one of
Mhm.
those that has that sort of that feel that you get when you're watching a movie where the whole time there's sort of like this feeling of dread underneath, like an
Mm.
undercurrent of dread, pretty much the whole time you're watching it.
Right.
And it's small at first, but it grows over time. I should have said it's about a husband and wife. Their only child goes off to college, and so now they're alone. He is Harrison Ford. He works, she doesn't, so she's home a lot in this big house on a lake. And it's just a great atmospheric kind of film. I think it's
Yeah.
set in the fall. There's a lot of scenes involving the neighbor that lives next door and
Mm-hmm.
some questionable things the neighbor might be doing
Right.
that are scary.
Yeah.
And then there's one or two scenes involving the lake and
Mm.
some really scary things that happen there. and then and then there's a whole plot between Harrison Ford and his wife is played by Michelle Pfeiffer. They're both brilliant in it, of
Right.
course, you know. And the ghost story that comes out of this plot directly ties into the two of them, but I won't say anything more else about it.
Sure.
There's a great kind of twist, if you will. And then the ending has probably one of the things that creeps me out the most is the final scene
Yeah.
involving the bridge and that kind of thing. It's
Right.
one of the scariest scenes that I've seen in film. I think just for
Yeah.
whatever reason, it just really
Right.
gets me.
Yeah.
And then it's got tremendous music in
Mm-hmm.
it. Probably my favorite horror score. I mean, it's not all like fingernails on the chalkboard kind of scary stuff. It's there's some really beautiful music in there too. And so just overall, it's just the perfect horror movie to me. I'm
Right.
going to mention too. I mentioned like the locations and the atmosphere.
Mm.
The cinematographer is Don Burgess, and he
Oh
did,
yeah.
among other things, Spider-Man, Forrest Gump, Castaway, Book of Eli.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the film, as we talked about before, that was sort of wedged in between the making of Castaway,
Right.
right? And again, I'm just amazed that you would think that, and it was the same crew, I think, that did it too,
Oh, okay.
and it's a completely different kind of movie. So it's
Yeah.
amazing to me that this phenomenal film
Yeah.
was sort of wedged in between another great film,
Right.
both by Zemeckis and yeah, wow. I mean, it's just great. This is one I revisit, pretty often, if not every year, every other year. And it's
Sure.
just scary, well acted, great twists, just
Mm-hmm.
beautiful to look at.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is a great film. I feel like people don't talk about it as much when they talk about Zemeckis' work. I mean, he's done so much that so many great films, but yeah, it's so well done. It's unique for him. I think it's really his
Yeah.
only horror movie. I mean,
The Frighteners, I think he did, but that was
okay,
more comedy.
right, and didn't he do Death Becomes Her too? It's more like a dark horror
Oh, I think
comedy
that
kind
might
of
be
thing.
him. Yeah, and that
Yeah,
is definitely comedy.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely more serious take on it, and this one definitely owes a lot. I feel to Psycho. He pays direct homage to Psycho with the bathtub, as opposed to a shower, right? I mean, that's what he was doing. He
True.
was
That's a
kind of
good
doing
point.
his
Yeah.
own Hitchcockian kind of
Yeah.
thriller.
Yeah. Right.
It's different because it has, like you mentioned, the kind of ghost story element to it as
Yeah.
well. So it's
Right.
it's it's his own thing, but yeah, it does remind me a little bit of Psycho in certain ways.
Sure.
But
I
yeah,
could see that.
yeah, I mean Pfeiffer, great. She's probably might be her best role that I've ever seen her play.
Maybe. Yeah, because
Um,
she does all kinds of stuff
yeah,
in this movie. Yeah.
right, yeah, very different for Ford as well, and just like
Uh-huh.
you said, the location, the scenery
Yeah.
is beautiful yet haunting. It's like it
Hmm.
can be both, which I think is cool. So yeah, that's an excellent pick. That's one of the I think I mentioned before one of the first horror movies I ever saw
Oh,
when I
really?
was
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
young. So yeah,
Yeah.
that was a memorable one that I actually haven't visited in a while, and I should
Mm.
because I don't think my wife has seen that one. So
Okay.
maybe we'll watch that one soon. Good pick. All right. On to my number one. This is going back to the 50s. So it's not
Mm.
quite a classic of the Universal Monster era, but it's a totally different genre. It's considered more of a noir thriller. It's a sort of described as a Southern Gothic kind of film, probably the first of its kind. It's called The Night of the Hunter,
Oh,
and
I haven't heard of
this
this, I don't think.
okay, yeah, this is a movie from again 1955, directed by a guy named Charles Laughton, who was a very popular actor in his day. Did movies like Mutiny on the Bounty, Hunchback of Notre Dame,
Oh.
Private Life of Henry VIII, Hobson's Choice. Great actor, great British actor, well
Mm.
renowned in his day. This is his first and unfortunately his only directorial effort. Um,
Mm.
the movie basically made no money when it was released,
Oh,
and it kind of crushed him, and he never ended up directing again.
wow. That's a shame.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. So, it
What was the year it came out?
55. So
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
1955. It's all black and
Right.
white.
Hmm.
It stars Robert Mitchum as a character
Okay.
called Harry Powell, and he's a kind of traveling preacher. He poses as a traveling preacher, he's actually a criminal, a serial killer.
Oh.
And he The movie starts with him in his jail cell with his fellow inmate, who is a husband, has a wife and two children, and he tells him that he stashed this money that he stole. He stole it to save his family from starvation, and he stashed it away at his
Mm.
house. And uh, he ends up dying. Misham's character gets out of prison and goes after the money.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's all
Yeah.
about him kind of swindling this widow and her children out of this fortune that's hidden somewhere at their home.
Interesting.
Home.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
a lot of tension in this movie. That's really why I find it to be the best horror movie, is because the way it builds tension is done so well,
Hmm.
and the children are constantly in danger. That's another element
Oh.
that I find to just be
Yeah.
nerve wracking.
Yeah.
These two precious young, children who know where the money is, that he's trying
Oh,
to find,
gotcha.
and they're basically the only ones that know they can tell he's a bad guy, like they know.
Hmm.
But their mother doesn't see it. All the townsfolk think
Oh,
he's this great, preacher. He's constantly
interesting.
quoting
Yeah.
scripture and this whole thing, and acts
Yeah.
like this, great guy. And he's a bachelor, so they're looking to set up the widow with him. All the townspeople are,
Oh.
super nice, and they think he's a great guy, and so it's
Hmm.
just so well done. The performances are excellent all around. This movie has such a Lawton, the director, called it a nightmare Mother Goose story. So it has this very kind of like there are these moments of lightness and kind of fun, with the children and the townspeople. It's this kind of idyllic American Southern town. And then
Yeah.
when Mitchum's character comes in, the music in is great, by Schumann is the
Hmm.
name. Walter Schumann did the score, and there's lots of music throughout the whole film, but he just does a great job with this theme that he gave this character. That's very kind of terrifying. So it's really well done on every
Hmm.
level. The cinematography specifically, is just really stunning. I mean, it looks so good. It's got these great um, shots. Some of it was shot on location. A lot of it was in sets, big, really big sets that they would build on the sound stages in LA. There's this whole scene on a river. They actually built this little river that went through the whole sound stage, and
Wow.
the countryside in the background. It very much has that kind of storybook quality to it, where
Hmm.
it kind of
Yeah.
almost feels like a fairy tale, that kind of dreamlike quality
Yeah.
to it, that whenever Mitchum's character comes in, it kind of becomes this kind of nightmarish horror movie. So it's just
Hmm.
got this interesting balance back and forth, the light and the
Yeah.
dark,
Yeah.
which
Okay.
is highlighted by the black and white cinematography. Very expressionistic. Lawton really wanted to kind of harken back to the silent era. And so, it's just the visuals are very, very strong.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah.
so just a unique movie that I
Hmm.
discovered for the first time earlier this year. So
Really?
I've only seen it twice.
Is it
Um,
streaming?
yeah, it's on actually no, this one is not streaming. I think it
Okay.
was on HBO Max. I think that's how I watched it. I don't think it's on there anymore. I got
Gotcha.
it on Criterion, has a great edition, a two
Oh,
disc version.
okay.
It looks great on Blu-ray. And the second disc is a 2.5 hour doc. The movie's only 90 minutes, but there's a
Hmm.
2.5 hour documentary on the making of it,
Nice.
which I haven't dove into yet, but I listened to the commentary on it last night, and lots of interesting things. They talked about how it's influenced by Frankenstein, the Universal monster movie, and there's
Gotcha.
elements of that in there. The young actors in it, Billy Chapin and Sally Jane Bruce, great child actor performances. Those can be very hit or miss. I feel
Yeah.
like it's hard to get a good performance out of a child sometimes, but he did a great job with that. Peter Graves is in this, who a lot of people will know
Oh,
from like Airplane and the Mission Impossible show.
yeah.
Very, very young in this.
Oh,
He's in it. Shelley Winters, who is a very popular
oh, yeah.
actress, is in it as well.
Hmm.
Lillian Gish plays a great character named Rachel Cooper, who's kind of looked at as the guardian angel. She was a silent film star,
Oh,
so not a lot of people will know her, but she's kind of like the guardian angel of the children, juxtaposed with Robert Mitchum's character, who's more like the devil. And so there's
yeah.
a lot of this great kind of poetic imagery in it too, and
Hmm.
and kind of it's a layered story about love and hate and religion and all kinds of different things. One thing that I found that was interesting was that the editor and the composer were on set every day, and
Really?
so they were actually editing and writing music on set as they would
Huh.
watch them shoot the film.
Wow.
It's just super well made overall. It was not very well received in its day. It was again very controversial to have a preacher, even though he was a fake preacher, he wasn't really a preacher, have
Yeah.
him doing these things, and going after
Really?
these children and
Yeah.
all this stuff was very controversial in its day. So
Hmm.
not well received, but eventually, was selected for the National Film Registry in 1992. So it's earned its praise over time. Guys like
Gotcha.
Martin Scorsese are huge fans of it, and it influenced their work as well. So yeah, all in all, it's just really well done. A lot of great themes, and really scary, because nothing is scarier, I think, than a lie. And so when someone's lying about who they are, and you know, it's a lot of it's from the kid's perspective, so they know they can pick up on things that this guy's doing that are
Gotcha.
wrong,
Yeah.
and
Right.
so it's like they know the truth. No one else will listen to them.
Mm.
So it's kind of that kind of horror,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I think
Gotcha.
is very scary as well. So just very, very purposefully made film, very meaningful. And
Hmm.
yeah, one that just has so much tension. You could cut the tension with a spoon, as they say,
Yeah.
when watching this one. So yeah, that one is my favorite horror movie.
Okay. Wow. I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for that one.
Yep. All right, folks. Well, that is it for our top 5 horror movies list. Let us know your list in the comments below. Be sure to also give us a like, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to get notifications of all our videos here at The Real World. Thanks again, Bert, for joining me.
Yeah. You bet.
I've got a video about this horror movie collection. I'm going to do one about this Alfred Hitchcock collection as well. So be on the lookout for that soon on the channel. Black Adam's coming out soon. There will be a review for that. We're going to be talking about all things DC coming up soon. So be on the lookout for all of that as well. Thank you again so much for joining us, and we will see you next time right here on The Real World.